You know, I've heard reports that Benchmades don't come sharp right out of the box. Well, this knife is ridiculously sharp. I mean, it's hard for you to tell the effort that I'm putting into this cut, but there's no effort at all. This thing's like a laser beam. Whoops. This is my 806-1101. It's the AFCK. This was a KnifeWorks exclusive, blue and black G10, and I figured I'd give this a little bit of camera time today. So I hope you enjoy. This is the Benchmade 806-1101, the AFCK. This is really one of Benchmade's long-standing, popular knives that actually has been discontinued for a while, but KnifeWorks got an exclusive to come out with this version with the blue Contured G10, blue and black Contured G10, and the M390 blade steel. So that's what I have. Interesting story with the way that I acquired this knife. KnifeWorks had been basically sold out of the plain edge satin version for probably 2 months, and I decided that I really kind of wanted one, and I'd kind of been bummed that I'd missed out on my chance to get it when they were available. So just kind of emailed them out of the blue and asked if they happened to have, one of these lying around the warehouse. And, it was kind of a long shot. I didn't know what to expect. I certainly wouldn't have been surprised if they would have said, no, they're sold out, as clearly it says on the website. But to my surprise, someone got back to me and let me know that they actually had this one sitting around and unclaimed, and that I could buy it, which was awesome. And they kind of looked at it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's perfectly centered. Everything is just fine with this one. It just wasn't sold, and so they shipped it out to me that same day, and I was really pleased to get it and really lucky. So it doesn't hurt to ask sometimes, email somebody and say, hey, can I, any chance that you have one of these? And in this case, it worked out. So let's just kind of look at this up close and personal a little bit. I know people really like the macro shots. You've got blue and black G10, and you've got these really thick steel liners. There's the blue standoffs, which are really nice looking. You can kind of see in there that the liners are heavily skeletonized, which does reduce some of the weight. You've got, nice fit and finish here. It's nice and smooth. Everything is really even. The blue and black G10 is contoured, so it has a little bit of a shape to it, and it also has this groove pattern. And then it just looks really nice. I like the color combination a lot. The texture itself is actually pretty smooth. It's not like a cold steel or even like a Spyderco Paramilitary 2 or Mannix, grippiness. It's a lot smoother than that, but I kind of like the smooth texture of it. You've got your axis lock, Benchmade's famous axis lock, which I enjoy. I haven't had any problems with it so far, and as long as I don't have any problems with it, I love the way it works, and it seems to be pretty good for me. The pocket clip is 4-way adjustable, so you can put that anywhere you like. I prefer it to be tip up, which is how it came in the box. This pocket clip is pretty nice. It has good retention, but it comes out of your pocket easily. And I like how it's mounted. It's not so far up that there's nothing to grab onto. There's just enough of the knife that lets you get a hold of it to get it out of your pocket, but not a ton of the knife sticking up, obviously. One thing when the knife is closed that I am a little bit concerned with over time is how close this point is to coming out of the handle of the knife. I feel like your finger could potentially catch that. It doesn't right now, even when I press a little bit, but maybe once it gets sharpened a little bit, the steel kind of gets taken away over time. I don't know if that would come up out of the handle and present a problem. There's the M390 steel designation. You can see it has the round thumb hole for the opening mechanism. As with most axis lock knives from Benchmade, this one is buttery smooth when you open it. And there's just no, hitches or any kind of grittiness at all. It's just very smooth. And when you disengage the axis lock, the blade will just fall back into the handle. You can tighten up the pivot and it would be a little bit tighter, which would not necessarily let it fall right back into the handle like that. But I kind of like it this way. And one of the results of having it to this tightness, I wouldn't say it's loose, it's just not tightened all the way down, is that I can induce a tiny little bit of side-to-side blade play. Now this is a long knife. The blade is nearly 4 inches, it's like 3.96. So if I'm grabbing it all the way at the point and wiggling it, I mean, I've got a lot of leverage out here. If I come in a little bit, I can still get a little bit of side-to-side, but it's nothing that should be a concern. It still is rock solid up and down, which I think is a lot more important. And again, I could tighten down the pivot and get rid of that side-to-side blade play, but then the knife wouldn't be as easy to open and close. So here's the blade. Like I said, it's 3.96 inches, which is definitely on the long side. I would love to have a Spyderco Military to kind of compare to this knife, because I think they're very comparable in terms of size and intended usage. If the Military was designed, as the name suggests, with military applications in mind, then this knife, being the AFCK, which is the Advanced Fighting Combat Knife, similarly designed for military applications, then the two knives seem to fit the same kind of idea for use, the same intended use, I guess. To me, I don't really, use a knife for any kind of a tactical purpose. That's not really what I'm buying a knife for. All of my knives are purchased with the intent to carry and use for more of a utility, EDC type of role. But, just in terms of types of knives, I think that this knife and the Military are pretty closely related. They're definitely about the same size. On the blade, you have the M390, like I mentioned before, and limited edition. This is number 319 out of 400. They made 400 of the plain edge satin, 400 of the serrated, I believe, partially serrated, and then 400 of each serrated and plain edge in the BK coating. And actually, if you want to purchase one of these 806 knives, the black coated version is still available from KnifeWorks. So it's not too late to pick one of these up. The satin version, like this one, is sold out at this point. But the black version, black bladed version, is still available. So, I really like this knife. I find it to fit the hand really well. I mean, it has a really long handle, but it has, a good shape that lends itself to being held in this type of fashion very well. It does have a little area where you can kind of choke up on the blade a little bit, and I guess I could use that if I was doing some fine work, but I haven't used it yet, and I feel more comfortable back here in this little finger choil area where I know I'm not going to slide up. I brought out a few knives to do kind of a size comparison. I've got the Spyderco Manix XL. Here's the Benchmade 806, the Kershaw Tilt, and the Benchmade Skirmish, which is model 630. Overall, these knives all fit the large category, I would say. The 806 is most similar to maybe the Kershaw Tilt in that they're both sort of a thinner profile but longer on the handle size. Compared to the Manix XL, it's a much broader, kind of fatter knife in the pocket. but they both have a very similar blade size. And then this Benchmade 630 is just in a whole different class of large knives. So let's take a look at the blade sizes or the overall length. Sorry for the camera bump. Alright, as you can see, all of these are larger knives and they are fairly similar in their overall lengths. The Manix 2 XL and the 806 are most similar in terms of their blade length. However, the Manix 2 has this choil which takes up some of the cutting edge, whereas the 806 is all cutting edge. The Kershaw tilt is very similar in overall size. In fact, they seem to be almost the exact same overall length. However, again, the 806 has a lot more cutting edge based on this large choil on the Kershaw tilt. And then the Benchmade 630 Skirmish is just a beast of a knife. It has a much larger blade, which you can see there. The handle is a little bit shorter. This just has a really long handle, similar to the Spyderco Military. And they both have the round opening hole. I also have the Benchmade 746 limited edition mini Onslaught, and these knives are very dissimilar. They're not similar at all in terms of blade shape or overall size, but they are both limited edition axis lock Benchmades, and they both have the same blue anodized standoffs, which is kind of cool. So they do share some similar qualities, and they both have the round opening hole. And finally, just to compare it to something else that a lot of people can relate to, is the Chris Reeve large Sabenza. The 806 is much longer overall than the large Sabenza, and has a longer blade, just overall a much bigger knife. But again, it has the same kind of blue standoff. When I looked at the stats published about the Benchmade 806, one thing that I found interesting was the stated weight of the knife. It was listed at 4.38 ounces. So I felt like this was a fairly chunky knife based on these really thick steel liners, even though they are skeletonized. It just has a good heft to it. It feels really good in the hand. I like the weight. I'm not in any way complaining about the weight of the knife. I kind of like a knife that has a little bit of heft to it because it feels quality, it feels well made. You know, not that light knives aren't well made, and I have the, for instance, the Manix 2 lightweight version, which I really like, and I definitely appreciate that for its lightweight. But for this knife, I mean, it just has a nice weight to it. I don't know how else to say it, I guess. But I didn't really believe the 4.38 ounces. So I pulled out my little digital scale here, and sure enough, it comes in at 5 1/8 ounce, which is a little more than 4.4 ounces roughly, 4.38. Still not bad, but a little heftier than what the stated weight is. Compare it to a couple other knives. The tilt comes in at about the same weight, 5 1/4. Just not even a noticeable amount heavier. The large Sabenza is 4 3/4, so that's a little lighter, still heavier than what the stated weight of this knife is online. And finally, the Benchmade 630 is a whopping 6 7/8 ounces, so almost 7 ounces on the 630. This is definitely a chunky knife. Okay, so Juan, JCCP10, I hope you're watching this video this far, buddy. I really enjoyed your video on blue knives, and since I was reviewing the 806, which has the blue and black G10 handle scales, I figured I'd just bring out the rest of the knives that I have, which are blue. I don't have, nearly as many as you do, and I'd always like to add more, so I'll be on the lookout. You did a really cool video response for my Sabenza video recently, so I thought I'd return the favor and give you a little shout out and show you my blue knives and kind of a response to your blue knives video at the end of this one here. So I've got the Zero Tolerance 0550 with its blue frag scale, my lightweight Manix 2 with translucent blue handle scales, the Spyderco Enduro with the blue jigged bone and Damascus blade, and again the video is all about the 806 with its blue and black G10 handle scales. So overall, my impressions of this knife, I really like the 806. It's an awesome Benchmade. I love how easy it is to open and close with the axis lock. Just pull it back and it just drops back into the handle by itself. The color is awesome. The G10's great. The fit and finish, I think, the fit and finish is really good. I have no problems with it. The sharpness out of the box you saw is just screaming sharp, and M390 is an awesome blade steel, which I really, really like. So this is definitely one of my favorite knives. Really easy to carry, even though it's a bigger blade, and I think it performs really well in utility tasks, even though that may not be what it originally was designed for. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and please leave me a comment. I want to thank all my subscribers out there. You guys are great. I haven't, kind of given you guys a good thank you recently on a video, so I want to definitely take the time to do that now. Your comments are definitely what I do this for. I enjoy the interaction of the community, and so I just want to say thanks to everybody out there that comments and subscribes to my videos. And I'll keep putting them out. I've got a lot more stuff to show you guys. So that's all for now. Definitely thumbs up for the 806 AFCK. It's a great knife, one that I really enjoy. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Everybody take care, and I'll see you next time.